The Cleveland Browns last had a 3-game winning streak in the 2021 season. If they want to match that 3-game winning streak here in 2023, they're going to have to do it in one of the toughest places to play in the entire NFL, Seattle, Washington. Your Locked On Browns pregame show starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, everybody. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. For the everyday crowd that just seems to keep on growing, make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel, and of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase Locked On NFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Your Browns news of the day, and health-wise, I know there were some questions and some people talking about as far as Seattle, Bobby Wagner, Kenneth Walker, look, all the Seahawks guys that matter are in. But the Browns, and there was some talk this morning, obviously Jedrick Wills hadn't practiced. Other guys had missed practice, Sione Takitaki. All those guys are going to be listed as questionable. Jerome Ford, for a guy that walked out of the building on Wednesday in a walking boot, Browns took him out of the walking boot yesterday, Thursday. Had him run a little bit. And they were surprised at where he was. Even more surprising is today. Jerome Ford practiced today. He's listed as questionable. But, the few people I've reached out to, it seems there's a legit shot Jerome Ford's going to be a go on Sunday. So the Browns, as much as the questions were there about Jerome Ford, it looks like Jerome Ford very much could be in play. The Browns did, in fact, sign John Kelly back to the practice squad. They just can't quit each other. And good for John Kelly. Look, man, make that NFL money as long as you possibly can. God bless you. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, we're not going to know till about 3 o'clock on Sunday when we get the inactive list. But he was back at practice today. Jed Wills was back at practice today. Marquise Goodwin was back at practice today, and Sione Takitaki did not practice at all last week, certainly didn't play, was back at practice today. All these guys that we're talking about here are questionable. So the Browns, other than the health of their quarterback, should be good to go. And we'll find out, obviously, I think if Jedrick Wills practice, Jedrick Wills is going to give it a go. We can all say what we want about Jedrick Wills, but the guy's always played hurt. He's always been out there. He's always been a warrior in that aspect. So, God bless him as far as that goes. And, good luck, for Jedrick Wills. And Jedrick Wills has strung together a couple positive weeks here. So it'd be nice to keep, hopefully, Jedrick Wills out there. Because even when I, saw the news that maybe it was a possibility he was out, I actually couldn't believe I was actually about to write or type the tweet, the X, whatever the hell we call it nowadays, that not having Jedrick Wills was going to be a bad spot for the Browns. So hopefully, Jed is able to go. Browns defense versus Seattle offense. Seattle certainly plays their old school approach. They like to run the ball, certainly like to get their wide receivers involved. The Seattle Seahawks do not have an offensive line that can match up with the Cleveland Browns. It's just a fact, the way the Browns defensive line is right now. In Seattle, they might be playing okay. Kenneth Walker's like a little bit over 4 yards per carry. The rookie Charbonneau, a little bit over, 4 yards, but not very many carries. So obviously the intention would be to shut down the run game and obviously get to your nickel and dime situations where the Browns excel. You get your 3 best pass rushers on the field, which of course is Ogbo, which of course is Zadarius Smith, which is of course Myles Garrett. Maurice Hurst has pretty much been the interior guy in these nickel and dime sets. And, again, Maurice Hurst, it's just been a really, really nice ride for Maurice Hurst. You're really, really excited for a guy like this who's put in so much effort and just had a really bad string of luck in his entire NFL career. And it's all starting to come together for right now. The fan base is obviously excited about him. His production has been very, very good. So, for the Browns, this is, what you are looking to do here. The wide receiver matchup is certainly going to be interesting. We know Denzel Ward can play against anybody. So whether it's Lockett, whether it's Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm sure a lot of you Browns fans with your Ohio State roots are probably excited about that matchup. That you get to see JSN, and of course, DK Metcalf. Denzel Ward's not backing away from any of these guys. Denzel Ward can play against any of these guys. Greg Newsome, you got to think get Greg Newsome and JSN. It's going to be a lot, of those two with each other. And obviously, as Greg Newsome's career was, ending at Northwestern, the next 2 years is where JSN's career basically picked up at Ohio State. So, obviously a good matchup there. Martin Emerson, DK Metcalf, that could just be a really, really good matchup. Obviously, two bigger guys. And DK Metcalf, like when you say big receiver, I just mean like big. The guy is just a monster-sized human being. One of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL. Not overly tall, but just a big, thick dude. He and Martin Emerson can put on some solid, probably one-on-one reps against each other. Browns got to take it to him. Look, right now, everybody is gunning for the Cleveland Browns defense because you either hit against them because they are extremely aggressive and you hit against them for long yardage, or you get stuffed and you get stuffed in the backfield really, really quickly. And you saw this in the Colt game. The Colts were able to string together some big plays, the one late touchdown of Michael Pittman. And you heard Denzel Ward basically tap himself on the chest. That's me. That's my bad. It was on me. Those are the ones the Browns got to watch out for. Obviously, Pickens had one week 2 Monday Night Football, similar play. Pittman obviously had a similar one. You almost think the calls were probably there, understanding the Browns maybe had difficulty with that alignment, with that guy running that route in that alignment. So something certainly to keep your eyes out. But, Lockett and JSN, they're both explosive, great route runners. DK Metcalf's kind of the full package, everything you look for as far as just a big, ridiculously good, physically gifted athlete. Don't sleep on Noah Fant. And if you remember years ago, Noah Fant had a really, really big game against the Browns when he was a member of the Denver Broncos. That was, a game in 2019, did not go very well, and obviously started a lot of the chirping and the issues in 2019. That was the old game of the come get me, Odell and Jarvis Landry battering it to whoever would listen. And God, it's still, I don't think anybody knows to this day what they were even talking about. But Noah Fant certainly is a guy you cannot slip on. This Seahawks offensive line, I'm going to continue to say it. They're not ready for this Browns defensive line. They're not. The Browns got to be the hammer here. Don't be the nail. Go get it. Go take it. I know it's a difficult place. The crowd is always loud. It's always raucous. It's going to be even more loud, even more raucous as the Seahawks are going to be bringing back those throwback unis. And look, they're a nice throwback uni. They really are. I'll give it that, I guess. But, at the end of the day, I don't care about anybody's uniforms. I care about how teams perform and how teams go about their business. And for the Browns, that is certainly the first and foremost thing I am worried about on Sunday. And, as much as I think Seattle's talented, I think Geno Smith has been in a really, really good situation here. I think, and I'll continue to say this, when the Cleveland Browns play at the pace that the Cleveland Browns can play at, none of it matters. If the Cleveland Browns can play the way they are capable of playing, they're a really, really difficult team to beat. We're going to go on to segment 2 here. We'll talk some keys to victory. We're going to talk some X factors in this game. Segment 3, we'll do a couple of listener questions, final game prediction. Thanks you, everybody, for being along for the ride. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Jeff Lloyd, we continue on here. Your latest Locked On Browns. Cleveland Browns travel to Seattle Sunday, 4:25 start. Browns, Seahawks. I'm excited. National coverage here. This is going to be a big one. Obviously, a lot of eyes on the Browns. A lot of people believe in the Browns team. A lot of people want to see the Browns team fail. And obviously, we all know the reasons why that within the media. And we certainly got a reminder of that again this week. But the recipe to win this game, and I think Seattle's, it's at 3.5 favorite, maybe a little bit more. But you also remember, guys, 3 points always goes to the home team. So obviously, this is about as close to a pick 'em as possibly can be. And, look, with the running game and with your defense, the goal for the Cleveland Browns here is to control the time of the clock. You want that in your favor. It absolutely has to be in the Browns' favor here, because as we see, the biggest issue the Browns defense has is when they have to play too much. So with that, what does that also mean? That means the Browns, and I said it yesterday and I'll continue to say it here, is they have to be able to run the ball. And I don't care if it is very successful. They have to have a certain amount of rushing attempts. They have to keep that clock moving. Number one, it quiets out the crowd. Number two, tires down the Seattle defense. Guys like Bobby Wagner. And you got to keep your eyes on Bobby Wagner all day long, because he is, Fred Warner did it to PJ Walker. Bobby Wagner is looking to get him in the same type of situation where he can give him a look where he thinks, where PJ is going to think that Bobby Wagner is either dropping or not dropping. And, Bobby Wagner, a solid veteran, a solid pro, going to find his way into deking possibly PJ Walker in an interception. PJ's got to be smarter with the football. Don't need the hero throws. And that's the one thing I think that's befuddled PJ to this point, is trying to do too much. You're not the starting quarterback of this team. You're trying to tread the water till the starting quarterback comes back. These are all things that PJ Walker is capable of. Don't do more than is expected of you. That is the biggest key for PJ Walker. And also, along with obviously controlling the clock and commitment to the run, it's going to be taking their run away. The Browns are going to need to be smart with this. The Browns are, going to have to commit to this. And, as much as, Geno Smith is a solid quarterback, and he and the passing offense in Seattle are a nice group and they get things done, and that's okay. But the issue is they have to be able to get them in the passing situations, because I think the ability for the defensive line in pass rushing situations to eat is most certainly going to talk about, players that might be able to, you always want to talk about players that might be bigger in a situation like this, some X factors. You got to look at any and all of these defensive backs, with Denzel Ward, with Martin Emerson, with Greg Newsome. And we saw Martin Emerson get his first career interception, still waiting on Greg Newsome to get that opportunity. You need to create some turnovers. You got to win a turnover battle in a game like this. And, with Grant Delpit, with McLeod, obviously with Juan Thornhill. I mean, this is an incredible secondary when you can talk about going 6 deep. It's a really, really good group for the Cleveland Browns when they can get to the opportunity where they can play 6 defensive backs. Not everybody has the luxury to have the talent that the Cleveland Browns have in the secondary. And this is going to be paramount. Look, Geno Smith, he is smart with the ball. He's careful with the ball, but he's going to have to, force the ball at times. He's going to have to get the ball downfield, because the pass rush is going to be in him. It's going to be on him. It's going to be up on him. Geno Smith has got to be very careful with his ball placement. He's got to really, really, really smart with his ball placement. This is a big, big key to this game. And the Browns, I think the secondary is starting to come together here. Denzel Ward, obviously an interception last week. Martin Emerson, an interception before, the week before. Grant Delpit has been really solid at points this season. Look to get maybe Juan Thornhill a little bit more involved. This is something where the Browns can take opportunity. This is a really, really good matchup, where we key on what is really important for the Cleveland Browns on defense, their defensive line and their secondary play. This is all big, big factors for this team. And they've got to go out there and they've got to do their best they can to get this done. Now, other X factors, I think Agbo Okoronkwo, because I think obviously when you look at this, way you're looking at the Browns, is you got to make sure you're not losing, not letting Zadarius Smith beat you. You got to make sure you're not letting Myles Garrett beat you. Those are some of the biggest keys, obviously, to all this. And this is where you get interesting with Agbo Okoronkwo, because even though he's the smaller of the 3 guys, he really, really has a smart presence as far as a pass rusher of getting on the inside of offensive tackles. And for him, it just makes the route shorter. You guys know about how many times we talked about this, and the value, myself and Pete Smith, all the years he did so many episodes with me, of being able to create up the middle, being able to create from the interior, because either right away, the quarterback's either got to throw it away or the quarterback's going to start rolling outside. And we all know that the athletic ability of number 95, like you just put him like a gazelle chasing down dinner, and he's going to win almost every one of those matchups. He's not going to lose many of them. So you stick with Ogbonnia Okoronkwo, I think, for really, really big X factor here. JOK, Anthony Walker, Kenny Walker. That's it. That's your dude. That's your assignment. Kenny Walker needs to have, an 18 for 60 type of day, an 18 for 53 type of day. Maybe he gets one decent sized run, but you got to just get him to these 2s, or even a 4 and a 5, but then he comes back with a -1 and -2. They're going to run the ball a lot. It's what Seattle likes to do. And then they like to set up Geno from there. Offensively, we're going to get to one X factor. Here was one of the listener questions, so I'm going to save that for segment 3. I'll keep saying it till I'm blue in the face, but there's 2 of them, Elijah Moore and there's Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong, I just think this is an opportunity where you can kind of get maybe forced. We know Kareem's a little banged up, even though he's practicing. Jerome Ford's back at practice. If he does actually get to go, you certainly not going to give him a heavy workload as he's working back from this ankle injury. Pierre Strong, there's an opportunity for a big one to be broken here by Pierre Strong. And it wouldn't stun me if we get a, Pierre Strong stat line of maybe 5-6 carries, maybe 60 yards, and possibly a touchdown, and maybe some 30, possibly even a 40-yard run in that mix. Pierre Strong has been good the little bit that the Browns have used him, and I think his ability to find the cutback lanes and that just natural juice that he has is something we're going to look for from Pierre Strong. And Elijah Moore, I'm not going to stop saying it. I think Elijah Moore's it's due. So let's get the ball to 8. It gets open all the time. Obviously, maybe he's got to get a little higher pecking, being a little higher in the pecking order as far as where he is in the reads. Because PJ obviously had a great game with Amari against San Francisco, not so much against Indianapolis. So first read should be Amari, second read should be Elijah Moore, and then it's either legs or look for David Njoku somewhere, hovering around the line of scrimmage. That's the way it should work. But I think PJ Walker is going to bounce in this week. I think he's going to have a pretty good week. But I think it's vital here this week. I think it's vital to get Pierre Strong more involved. I think it's vital to get Elijah Moore more involved. Guys just working his butt off to get open week in, week out. And for him right now, it's kind of been the same story as it was when he came here from New York. The Jets did the same thing. They just never seemed to throw him the ball enough, and certainly didn't seem to throw him the ball when he was open. But for Elijah Moore, the time for a big week is certainly this week. So you have all of that, and the offensive line, you think you're going to get Jedrick Wills in again this week, which is certainly what you are hoping for, obviously, with all that Jed went through, and Jed really putting together a nice stretch of ball for himself. It hasn't been a lot here for Jed, but for this type of opportunity, you're hoping again that you can get Jed involved here and get Jed a little bit more, what I'm saying, just Jed flowing the way he's been flowing, because I think for a guy like him, the biggest thing you need for Jed Wills is to get the confidence level up. And right now that has absolutely been the case for number 71. I've always been someone that's been, kind of, critical of Jedrick Wills. I'm not hiding from that, but I think he's put together with some of the better stretches, that he has to his point here in the time in the NFL. And, between him, he starts clicking. Obviously, DeJuan Jones, Joe Bitonio should be even better as he, starts to work his way back from the knee scope. Postic Teller, it's time for the Browns offensive line to start, rising back up to where we've grown accustomed for that to be. We're going to get to segment 3, some listener questions, final game predictions. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. Appreciate you all for being along for the ride. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection, and you watch the winnings roll in. Testing my skills on PrizePicks this football season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Quick withdrawals, easy game play, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. For the Browns, do you think PJ Walker is going to throw for more than 207.5 yards? If so, you can go. If not, pick that more than less than. The wide receivers in the 40s. Cooper in the 40s, Moore in the 30s, David Njoku in the 30s. All things that you can put into your PrizePicks lineup. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Did the game go to timeout? Well, it's time to order in with DoorDash. Is it halftime? That's ordering time. 2-minute warning, you got it. That's your cue to order in. And if you're in the Cleveland area and you're closer to the stadium, you can call in Mike's Diners, burgers, sandwiches, you name it, they got it, and it'll be there for you by the second half. All of your favorite restaurants and stores from retail to grocery are on the app, so you can shop everything you need to get game day ready. Get prepared before game day. Stock up on your favorite appetizers and order all your tailgate gear on DoorDash. Then get ready to watch the Browns win. Go get $50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Subject to change. Terms apply. That's 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCK23. Subject to change. Terms apply. Jeff Lloyd, segment 3 here. We close out your Locked On Browns pregame show. Browns Seattle 425 out in Seattle. Obviously a big one for the Brownies. And, to get this to 5-2, 3-game winning streak. And of course, I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every day. And make sure you subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel and join the everyday crowd. We got some questions here from _Joel. Why isn't DTR getting another shot? I'm not sure where they're at with DTR, but the biggest thing is that PJ Walker beat the San Francisco 49ers, and PJ Walker came back to rally his team to victory against the Indianapolis Colts. So, Joel, I don't think DTR's time here with the Browns is any time close to being over. I just think as the games get more critical and this team shows signs of possibly being a playoff team, you don't want to put the ball in the hands of a rookie. His time will come one day soon. Nick and Niles, do you think DW will be ready for next week, or do you think, as I do, it may linger a few more weeks till he builds strength? Baltimore possibly, Pittsburgh likely. The key is this week. If you can beat the Seattle Seahawks, I think you have zero issues about whoever's going to play besides Deshaun Watson against the Arizona Cardinals. So you get this win, I think you're all right. And we start talking about DW against the Baltimore Ravens. You don't get this win, maybe pressure mounts, and you're trying to get to DW against the Arizona Cardinals. Not ideal. Ideally, I think you want to make sure you have Deshaun Watson ready for that next matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. And let's just hope the Baltimore Ravens lose this week and it doesn't become that big of an issue. At Ty Guy 312. Let's leave the trade deadline QBs who aren't playing out of things for this one. If it's dropping before Sunday, who needs to step up for the road underdogs to get the W on Sunday? Feel like it's been bubbling up for a couple of weeks now. A Njoku career game. And when we talk a David Njoku career game, if everybody remembers a few seasons ago at the Chargers, I think it was like 7 for 160 and a touchdown. Browns lost that game in a heartbreaker, a game they should have easily won. But that is something you have to keep in mind. I agree, though. I think things are trending really well for David Njoku. And it seems like they get him involved and then they kind of get away from it. Look, David does so many things well, plays so well within the play action boot game. He's really, really good on basically crossing over the field and basically monitoring the passing windows and making sure he always got himself available for the quarterback. I think a David Njoku big week is certainly possible. The only thing is the Seattle Seahawks don't give up a lot to tight ends. You go through the teams they've played this year, tight ends have not had big matchups against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not saying that can't change. I'm not saying that certainly can't be a possibility. And I'm not saying I disagree with you. I think David Njoku's got a big game in him. It certainly could be this week. And hey, you want to see a Chief Slammer too? I want to see a Chief Slammer too. Everybody wants to see a Chief Slam or two. So now we got to get ourselves here to a prediction for Sunday. And I know how difficult this place is to play in. And I know how loud this place can be. And you put in the added juice of throwback jerseys. You throw in the added juice of the fan bases is really excited about this. The Russell Wilson hangover kind of hurt the Seattle crowd last year. Even though Geno Smith played well, I think it was just a really difficult situation for a fan base that had fallen in love with a player. I think, but now the Seahawks fans look down at Denver and see what's going on and realize maybe it's okay that Russell Wilson is no longer in Seattle. You can tell me whatever metric you want, but I don't see Russell Wilson playing that well. And the Russell Wilson that was the big Russell Wilson was the reason, teams that weren't so great when he was in Seattle found ways to win. When they didn't play well, Russell Wilson was the reason they found ways to win. Denver's not winning. So that's, for me, what the issue is with Russell Wilson. He was a difference maker, and he would take a team that looked like it was going to lose and find a way to make it win. Another story, another day, obviously. I think the Browns win. I'm not even going to lie. I think the Browns pull this out. I know it's difficult. Obviously, the Seahawks are a good team, balanced on offense, balanced on defense. I just think the Browns' defense is significantly better. And, Seattle, I don't think that they understand. And obviously Seattle and Cleveland, it's film. They don't play them, haven't played them in 4 years. It was 2019 the last two times these teams played. Obviously, vastly different circumstances now. But I don't think, and I think similar to how San Francisco got caught in the Browns' defensive trap, I think Seattle gets caught in the Browns' defensive trap. You just don't understand how good they are. And all right, well, we'll still be able to throw. Well, the corners are good. Well, yeah, well, we can get over the corners. Oh, yeah, well, the safeties are good. And then, how are we going to keep our quarterback protected? And I think that's going to be very similar to how this is going to work out. So you ask me, I want to say something 23-17, but you're going to go into Seattle. Cleveland Browns are going to be victorious Sunday in Seattle, and we're going to be partying again on a Victory Monday here on Locked On Browns. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. Now my 7th season with y'all hosting Locked On Browns. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns our first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, which you all need to join by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.